Yes, my people, welcome back to another episode of the Where's My podcast. And today we're joined by another special guest. Again, you would have noticed that we're in a different location. Can't lie, we're in a beautiful location at the moment. Our guest has kindly allowed us into their abode and ready to have a great conversation. But today, I'm joined by my guy, Sean Chimbani, the founder of Face Concept Stores. This is a conversation we've been meaning to have for a while. So Sean, thank you so much, bro.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you for coming through. Honestly, it's been one of those ones that we've been chatting about it, but I'm glad we're making it happen.
Finally making it happen.
Exactly,
bro.
yeah.
Because obviously, Sean, you would have seen at the beginning of every episode,
I
basically just talk about why you, the guest, are on the pod. And obviously, the viewers don't know, but we recorded a bit of content a couple months back and whatnot. And I remember that day when I met you, Sean, I was like, nah, I need this guy on the pod. Because prior to recording, we were just having chopping it up about fashion.
Appreciate it,
I'm
bro.
learning so much from you. I'm like, these are the sort of things that we need our audience to hear. And on top of that, I love the brand, bro.
Thank you, bro.
Like, the audience will obviously see it. Some of you have probably seen it already. Sean is the founder of Face Concept Stores, and their collections are just, oh my days. Like the colors, bro, we're going to get into it. But Sean, before we dive into everything, if you just could give like a quick introduction about who you are and whatnot.
So, without getting too deep into it, so I'm a fashion and footwear designer. Currently based in Northampton. I was living in London for like a few years, or 3 years really, before I jumped out during the pandemic. So I run an amazing young brand, independent brand called Face Concept Store. It's not just me. I run it with one of my friends, which has been doing really well together. And then on the side as well with the footwear design. So I actually started a company, I want to say 8 months ago, with 2 talented designers based in San Francisco. Obviously now it's a company, it's called Pearl Purple as well. So that's another thing I do. And I consult as well. So I consult within fashion and footwear. So
You do a bit.
yeah, so it's got my shoes filled up, bro. But it's
No
fun.
pun intended.
No pun intended. Exactly, no pun intended. But it's fun, man. I love the process. It doesn't feel like work. So yeah.
Nah, man, for real, Sean. Obviously, I've seen everything you're doing, and I think we connected. How long ago was it? Maybe over a year now.
Yeah, it's been about a year now, bro. And I've just loved what you guys are doing, man.
Appreciate
I think
that, man.
seeing your growth as well, like you and your team, is just amazing to see. And the type of guests you've had on there, some of them I listen to, some of the stuff they do. So it's just nice to see, your guys' growth, championing independence and individuals that have the voice that needs to be heard,
100%.
in the space we are. So.
Love for that, Sean. I was just about to say the same to you. Obviously, haven't known you for the longest, but again, I've seen so much growth in such a short space of time, and I'm just excited for the audience to hear what's gone into that, but more importantly, what came before that as well, because I suppose that's where most of the juice is going to come from, you know what I mean? So obviously, Sean, let's take it back. What was your upbringing like? Where are you from originally?
So originally I'm from Zimbabwe. So I moved from Zimbabwe when I was about 12. And
you were born there?
Yeah, I was born in Zimbabwe.
I thought you would still have like a little twang or something.
Dude, born and raised in Zimbabwe. And then I moved from Zimbabwe to the UK when I was 12. And I actually lived in Birmingham for like a couple of years. And went to Radcliffe School in Milton Keynes, not far from here. Where I was so into art, man. I really just love painting and sketching. I actually wanted to get into portraiture for a long time. But my mum was just, from her, understanding was just like the fine art world at that time. It was just like, it was becoming saturated, a lot more difficult to get into. So obviously I continued that into A level. And I actually just started finding interest in more architecture. So initially I wanted to go into architecture, but I just didn't get the right grades to do it. So my second option, my mum was just like to me, why don't you maybe like major in something? What about product design, less years, I don't have to spend 7 years, maybe just do 4 years and then maybe that takes you somewhere. So I did some more research and I found industrial design. Which I found that was like, it basically just gives you the tools. So it's a whole process. So like if you do industrial design, it's so wide in that like I can go into interior design, I can go into graphic design. I can go into footwear design. I can go into fashion design, just because the process is the same.
Did you know that when you were first starting it?
No, I didn't. Not at all. It's just something I started learning once I obviously got to uni and started understanding the process in how you go from research to the end product. And then I figured out, actually, rather than just like still keeping wide, let me funnel down and actually focus, hone in on something that I'm actually interested in. And at that time, like before I finished uni, I just used to like sketch a lot of shoes. And just was like, I wasn't really like into fashion from dressing, but there was some sort of like interest there. And my business partner who I met when at uni, she just used to dress like super cool.
And she was fly.
And I think part of that kind of helped me just bring that side to myself.
Do you know what, Sean? Sorry to backtrack a bit, yeah. But I find this so interesting because obviously we speak to designers and what all the time. I speak to people off camera and whatnot. And a lot of them have a similar journey where they didn't necessarily study fashion or know they wanted to do fashion, but they ended up in fashion. Like from when you were young or when you was in Zim or when you was in Bram or wherever you were, can you ever think back to a time where like fashion started to become a thing to you, or it literally started in uni?
It wasn't even in uni. It's something footwear was always my passion. Like, not say passion, but like the interest from being in uni. That's something I wanted to actually start by myself as an independent. So fashion wasn't even in the equation at that time. Footwear, after having watched some of the people in the industry, particularly designer, he was Mr. Bailey. He had taken a more unconventional route. So I started designing, and I actually started contacting manufacturers towards my final year. Trying to figure out, can I do it? Obviously at that time, like it's just so much excitement. You don't really understand the financial backing, like how much money that has to go into like starting your own brand, especially in footwear.
That's what I was gonna say. It's not like you can just order a t-shirt.
You can't. It's just not. It's not that simple. So without understanding, but it was just my passion. I was just like, I want to do it. Let me go through the process of doing it. So when I jumped out of uni, when I moved to London, I actually lived in when I jumped in, I went straight to East actually. I actually got myself out there. So I started going into certain events. That's when I met, the founder of Not Just Another Store. He had an event where I actually met some really cool people in the space. Some of my friends now, really good friends of mine within the fashion space, they've obviously helped me just connecting with the right people, being around the right people. Some of the contacts, one of my, one of my best mates, he connected me to who now, he's almost like, I call him the architect of my brand. He's called Doc. He's like, nothing moves without him. When it comes to manufacturing, he's involved. So I wouldn't have met them if I wasn't for some of these guys being in the specific, these particular spaces I wanted to be in. The first time I wanted to drop some footwear, I did a sample. I didn't have enough money for it.
Sean, let me cut you there again, yeah? Because, not to say we've skipped a bit, but so you've made a sample of a shoe.
Yeah,
now.
I've actually made a sample my first year being in London. So I got a sample done.
And how did you actually learn how to do that? Because again, as I said, it's not like you could just go to a manufacturer, get a box of t-shirts and screen print onto it. Like trainers, I don't really understand the process of shoemaking and whatnot. So whilst you were at university, once you finished, came to London, and then you finally got to the point where you were able to make like shoe samples and whatnot. What went into that, and like, what did you actually have to do?
So obviously the process there was like, once I had my designs done, because I didn't really go to like footwear or fashion school, I didn't come with the technical side, even though I did understand that I had some understanding of like, creating engineering drawings, like technical sheets from doing industrial design at uni. So obviously that's the only knowledge I have, but there's more that goes to it, understanding the construction, etc. But as I started like navigating the scene, just from connecting with people on Instagram, really, there's a platform called Concept Kicks. And what I usually used to do was literally just follow a bunch of, because it it supports a lot of footwear designers. And I used to just follow message, and ask for help, right? Literally that was it, and ask for help. And obviously once I'd sort of like, obviously when I met Doc, who was obviously someone I work with more now, he had a contact who understood that side. So he was just like, make sure. I basically, when I say at that time, I didn't understand how to even do tech sheets like that. To get it from being a sketch to go to manufacturing. I was winging it. I just created it off the whim, and from the manufacturer, it made sense. So I thought, that's just me coming from I'm using my experience in industrial design to do this.
Yeah.
So I got a sample done from that, man.
What was it like?
Oh, it's really cool. I've actually got it. I mean,
You still got it?
Yeah, I still got it.
Yeah.
And it was super dope, man. It was just like, that's the first thing I sort of did myself before the clothing brand started. It was the first thing I actually was holding. I was like, wow, I've actually got a sample. And it was just a great feeling, rewarding feeling, obviously. Obviously, it wasn't a brand yet. So I think it was just, I guess in a way, it was just a boost for myself to just know that, this is possible. I can actually do it. Yeah. I can do the process. And then shortly after that, I parked that for a little bit, but then I was sort of consulting.
Consulting in what sense?
So consulting, so actually working on other people's projects. So actually helping them with the process. So from start to finish. So like
shoemaking.
Yeah, like designing. Not necessarily the shoemaking side of it, but just the design process. Okay, so from like ideation till like they have to take it on to like manufacturing. And then the Face concept store, so the name Face was something I used to scribble whenever I used to sketch shoes. So Face actually was going to be a footwear brand before that obviously transitioned into more the clothing. In a way, I would have wanted like to have Face as like fashion and footwear. That was the initial sort of like what you call it, the ethos and the brand sort of like image for it, but that didn't align. So when we started the Face, obviously my business partner Millie, when she came into the equation, let's just solely focus on the brand in itself, set like what's the brand image, brand values, and at that time, she had a lot more knowledge in sustainability than I did, and we started looking into how to. It's almost like that's sort of like why we got so much like press behind it, because we were already thinking of the now, which is like utilizing sustainable materials, eco-friendly materials. I would like to use it, and just like ways in which you can just not add to the overflow consumption of like clothing as it is already. So obviously that started. So obviously name was already set in stone. Face was going to be the name for the brand.
Cool. So yeah, Face was going to be the name for the brand, and happy we kind of got back to the brand part of it, because we'll speak about the sustainability stuff as well. But you said something that piqued my interest. So you had the sample, whatever, and you said obviously it weren't a brand yet, but then you also went on to talk about knowing that you needed to think about like the brand image and the brand values and stuff like that. At that point where you knew you wanted the brand, how did you know to do stuff like that? Because I wouldn't necessarily say that's like common knowledge, because some people, like you said, just wing it. You get it? But like you kind of knew what to do to have a brand. You know what I'm saying? So where did that knowledge kind of come from?
That came from conversation. So like obviously when I came into London, when I started, putting myself into the right like spaces, I would want to say, it was just having conversations, so obviously now friends of mine who obviously have their own like stores and stuff like that, it was just asking questions really. I wanted to be the dumb person in the room and actually ask like, how do I go about it, but also just research myself, because at the end of the day, like for a brand to really sit with someone, I feel like there has to be some sort of like image and like
100%.
the narrative and like the brand image and the storytelling is so important as well. So, but I think just having the right people around me helped so much, because it just allowed us to sort of like, what does Face mean? You know what I mean? Just come down to that, and what's our like demographic? You know what I mean? Who do we want it to resonate with? So those are sort of questions we sort of asked ourselves when we were creating. But regardless, before the sample came through, before we started designing anything, it was just like, we need our symbol has to, if someone asks us, we have to be able to explain that essentially.
And speaking of that, like, so what is the face brand image and brand value and brand ethos like? And when you were like making the brand, how did you kind of land on that?
So we landed on face because we're talking about identity for the most part. And I was actually having a conversation with a friend of mine, because over the time I was sort of seeing like, you know, how like certain brands would like, they never like, what's the word? Like showcase. So if I went and designed something for a collection, it's always going to be this person designed it. These times, like, this is not really focused on the team.
Yeah.
This why is always the individual, right? And for me, it was just like face was almost like championing independent designers. So that's why when the first collection we did a collaboration with.
That was your first collection?
That was the first collection. We did a collaboration with IFAR because we wanted to showcase the stuff, her as an artist, essentially. That was the whole premise of that. And really like being like unique is a key thing for us. Obviously, yes, we tap into sustainability. Core design is key. That's why we do like collaborations and stuff like that. But at the core of it, it's really just being like, we want to be a library. We want to be a space where people can be like, oh, I actually like the conversations they're having or their process, because we don't want to shy away from showing the process. Because I think for me personally, like when I speak to, you know, my business partner and this team overall, I think there's something cool about the process, showcasing that, just because someone else can learn from that, you know.
Facts.
Yeah.
There's so much value in that, bro. And I suppose that's probably one of the things that endeared face to me. Not just the fact that it just looks brazy.
No.
Obviously that's a given.
Yeah.
But just the fact that I could tell that it seems so transparent. And I think considering the things that you mentioned about obviously caring about sustainability and stuff like that, like you kind of have to be honest in what you're doing. Do you know what I mean? So do you feel like there's value in that?
There is value in that, but like, you know, there's another thing as well when we talk about the most sustainable garment is the one in your wardrobe, right? So it's like, that's why I think we try and use sustainability in a very loose term, just because you're almost contradicting yourself. But for us, it's just like, it's almost the whole conversation like, do we need more clothes? You know? But I think if you're creating a piece of garment, there has to be some sort of meaning to it. We're trying to add to the culture in a way, right? Or just a messaging, key messaging. So for us, it's like the fabric we use, the pattern we're using, the detailing, all of that is part of the, like, you know, considering that sustainability. So, I mean, for the first collection, all of it was upcycled.
Serious?
Literally.
Now that you said it.
Yeah. All of it, even the bucket hats, we made them from scratch.
Yeah.
You know, all of it was upcycled. Even the actual like ready to wear was all upcycled as well. So.
And Sean, bringing it back to the first collection you mentioned, obviously, because you're wearing one of the hats, and that's from the first collection.
That's the first collection.
Like, bro, I find it so mad that this is your first collection, you know, because it just looks so refined. Like, how do you think you were able to get to that point where your product is at this level, at this point? Do you get what I'm saying? Do you get that question? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get the question, but I think it's like, it was for this collection was trial and error. Like, funny enough, because we started with when I sat down with Aya, I was like to her, we were just having a conversation. I was just like, oh, I would love to do a collaboration. And we literally started with bucket hats, you know, and it's, you know, we just was like let's just see how it goes. So we sort of like the first ones we did were like terrible. And then, you know, went back to the drawing board. We did the second wave of them. We're like, oh my God, this is really cool. And when I realized this was going to actually be really cool was when we only had one sample done, and I was wearing it like everywhere. And before I met one of my friends, Joel, right, who runs Not Just Another store, I remember Aya introduced me to him. I remember walking in the store and he was like to me, oh man, that's a cool hat. Like, are you guys selling yet? Like, can I get one? These times we didn't have any stock. So how I'm thinking, I was like, yes, let's make him one. Obviously, knowing, he's super connected and he really wanted to support. Like, it wasn't like how he approached it was very much like, I want to support you guys. Like, can you make me one? And we literally got him one made for him and sent it to him. And he wore it. And literally that day, it just went. So we literally just got like an influx of messages from people just being like, can I get this hat? But this time we didn't have any stock in. Yeah. So it was.
So what was that like then? Obviously, it's a great feeling knowing that, oh my days, like people want our stuff. But was it daunting in the sense that, okay, cool, now, although we've been working, now like another level of work is starting where.
Yeah, because then it's like, it's not just design now. It's like the business, right? You have to understand marketing. You have to understand like strategy, like how we position ourselves, like the financial side of it as well, like, inventory, all of that stuff. It's like, now you have to think outside the box. And how do you keep people interested? Because for long, you could either like say you haven't got any stock and then you miss that gap. And it's like, then you have to but for us, it's like, we have this thing about, we take our time. So we're seasonless. So we don't drop by like the seasonal calendar. So whenever we know the collection's ready, that's when we drop it. That just gives us time to take our time and like, and really I'd hate to use the word, I don't want to say refine, because a lot of the things we do is like, that's why we call ourselves a concept store, because it's not necessarily like a finished product, but it's essentially just like some concepts might not actually make it, some concepts will do. So yeah, I think it's just like, from then it was just like really then thinking, not ahead, but like just thinking in the moment, but like, okay, cool, what's the most important things we need to make sure that is ready now? And yeah, like we're a super cool team. It's just me and her. And then obviously there's other people who come into the equation when we ever do, we do campaigns. And then obviously Doc, so it's three of us. So Doc is like, he's like the architect. So he's the one who understands manufacturing than I do. So he knows like, he's done that enough times. So yeah.
Sean, I'm so happy you're speaking about that transition from it almost being not for yourself, but finding out there's interest in it, and then what you have to do to kind of take it to becoming like a business, a profit making business. Yeah. This is me making an assumption because I've never been in that position in it, but I'm sure there's a lot of the listeners right now that are in a similar position to that. Like when you have to start thinking about more than quote unquote just the design, obviously you're having to think about loads of stuff, but I think you get the point I'm trying to make. Does it have an effect on your, what's the word? Your like, love isn't the right word, but does it kind of make it less pure to a certain degree? And if you resonate with the question I'm asking you, how do you overcome that sort of emotional battle from it transitioning from like a passion project almost to a business? Sorry, long-winded question, but I hope you understand what I meant.
Yeah, I think it's, I don't know. I think that's more personal to each individual. I think for me personally, everything I do is literally like passion projects. Like these are things like I've been thinking about for time. And then whenever I've got the right people around to start it, then we'll start it. So yes, there are moments like, that's why I think before off camera, I was talking to you about being like professional. It's just understanding there are going to be moments where like I genuinely wake up, I don't want to do it. And I just feel so down, but I just get it done. That's not because I'm falling out of love with it. It just means I'm having a bad day. But really it's just like majority of the stuff I do just doesn't feel like work. Just because I'm really like, so I geek out on process so much. Like even when I have conversations with the team or like the people around me, any ideas that come to it, I just geek out on that. And that's my passion. That's what motivates me really. So yeah. So
them days where, as you said, you're a human being, so you may not want to do stuff, and you kind of bring it back to just being a professional. Like, what is it that gets you out of bed in the morning to do what you need to do?
Our bills.
Can't forget those. Bloody hell. Cost of living crisis as well.
No, it's not. You know what it is? I think it's like, I think it's the crowd I'm around, bro. I think we're all just like, we all motivate each other. We're all just like, that saying the whole idea of like adding to the culture. You never know who you're inspiring sometimes, And other times, like, you know, I message some of my friends, they'll send me like their projects they're working on before they drop. And I'm like, man, like this is crazy good. And they probably messaged me at the time I needed to see that. So then I was like, I'm already back to my debt. Like I'm, you know, working and stuff like that. But ultimately for me, I think it comes down to like my crowd really. I think we're just trying to do some cool stuff, you know. I just love design so much that I'm like, you know, I'm just trying to do something that could inspire someone else, you know. And also my community, you know. When I was starting up, I didn't really have like, you know, someone of my color that I could say, wow, I want to be like them. Obviously now it's changed because there's a lot more, there's a vast amount of them and it's amazing to see, and we can all just like support each other. But when I was coming into industrial design, I didn't have anyone I would look up to and say like, wow, like I want to get to the level you are. No, not at all. So for me, it's just like majority, like it's focused on my community. Because I have conversations, you know, like privately with a lot of people who message me directly, and just ask me questions of like, how did you even get to this? Or how do you do this? And for me, it's just like, my Instagram is like literally my process. So I just want people to see that like, yes, you know, you can be doing that yourself. You know what I mean? Like if you make the right moves and move the right way, yeah, it's possible.
Big facts. Big facts. And I love what you're saying, because it kind of brings it back to always remembering your why at the end of the day. Because in those days where I feel like Wallow right now, in those days where the going gets tough, like it's that why that will really get you out of bed in the morning and whatnot. And Sean, we've literally only been speaking for half an hour, yeah, but you have mentioned the people around you many times, bro. So it goes to show how much you value them, for one, and how important they've been in your journey into becoming the man you are today and who you'll become going forward. Like, we was obviously talking about this off camera, and I said I wanted to big you up on it. Like, you're so good at building connections, and it just seems so genuine. It doesn't seem like it's from a forced place or a place of, I need you, so I'm gonna, do you get what I'm saying? So I just wanted to ask for the listeners, like, how do you go about building the right network, and how do you kind of discern who are the right people to have around you?
I think it's like, yeah, I'm not sure it's trial and error is the right thing, the right term, but it's really like, I've had failed relationships. I've been around certain people that, you know, through going through something. It's only when you go through that journey of realizing, oh, you know, when you outgrow someone, when you outgrow a relationship, or you outgrow certain environments, you know, that's when you realize it means it's just, I guess, maturing and stuff like that. But for me, it's just like, I've just been lucky to be around the right people, you know, who have given me the right sort of like mentorship. I mean, some of the people like who I speak to now, they're people like, you know, some of them are 40s and 50s, bro. Serious? Like, you know, just because like maybe I used to, a specific client I've worked with, but what I've just, them knowing who I am, later on down the line, they've got back in contact with maybe an opportunity, like, Sean, can you jump on this, or etc. And that just resonated with me. But for me, it's just like, for me, the art of conversation is so important. That's what I was saying to you off camera. I think sometimes it's like, rather than asking to, like, a lot of people take, it's always like, I want something from you. Rather than approaching it and just be interested in that person. Like, you might have seen maybe a project they did, and you just maybe specifically just be like, oh wow, like I love what you did there. If there's any chance, like, prime example is actually, I was in London working with, there's a client I'm working with right now, and I just so happened to bump into a really cool guy, a friend of mine, and all he said to me was literally like, bro, like, we were just talking about process and design, and he was just like, man, one day, like, if you ever are able to give me your time, can I just come and literally just see how you work? Serious? That's all. Like, to me, like, it felt so genuine. You know, there wasn't any sort of like feeling of like, oh, man, I want to come through and like, can you bring me in and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with that, but I just think sometimes it's like, people don't need to understand, relationships take long, and the relationship I've built now is genuinely like, I actually support these people as well. It's not like one-sided. So like the people who are still my friends and now I've built the relationship in the sort of like in the industry, or you know, when you see me do something specific and you realize, oh, how you connect with that person, it's genuinely just from conversation and, you know, supporting that person. Beside, like for a long time, some of the stuff I'm doing now with the people I'm around, and the team, is genuinely taken maybe like a year, you know what I mean, to build that relationship and to get to a point where when it's right, let's make it happen, you know? So, but for me, I always think it's organic. Like you have to make it organic. Don't force it. You know, I've connected with some really cool people. Nothing's come out of it.
And that's fine.
And that's
well.
fine.
Yeah.
And that's fine as well. For me, I accept that. But some of them on the other end, it's actually worked out, and it's gotten us to somewhere else and got me to a certain level I wanted to get to. So, but for me, it's always like, it's just be genuine with it, you know, conversation is important, you know.
Hey, Sean, speaking of conversation, this interview is so hard to do in a good way because I connect with you on such a proper level. We can end up speaking for 2 hours and not even talk about fashion, you know that. Because as you're talking, I'm thinking about all the different things I can pick up on, innit?
Yeah.
So I also want to talk about your first connection in more detail, innit? But before I forget, you mentioned how this gentleman, the client that you're working with at the moment, he literally came and asked you, I want to see your process. I think that kind of ties into the idea of personal branding. And I'm not saying you've been purposeful in branding yourself in a certain way, but again, whilst we were off camera, I was talking about how I feel like your personal brand is that, in a sense that you really show the process and there's so much value in that. So again, you don't have to agree with me, but do you feel like it's important for up and coming designers, or I don't know, people that want to get into fashion, to really put thought into branding themselves rather than just the brand?
I mean, yes, I agree in the sense of like, I believe people buying into our product, they're buying into us as individuals. Just because like you have resonated with that individual, you know, how they think, how their process goes, how they maneuver, their ideas, you know, how they deliver of the ideas. So I think it's important, like, it just depends, like, if it's genuine, like depends on how you want to brand yourself. Like for me, it's like, I'm really who I am off social media and in person. I genuinely just love design. So anything I post, I'm posting about process. I want to bring people inside my head in a way, just like how things I'm thinking in the moment. With Face is literally, those are our ideas. Like me, I sit down with my business partner, we're literally sketching. So what you see is like the raw, is nothing's been filtered down. And I think there's something about showing the process. Transparency is key. There's something key about that when you're branding yourself. You know, it just shows authenticity, and people actually get to actually see who you are. Whereas if you're like, I don't know, when you're focusing too much on just the brand side of things, it's cool, but like I just think it's, you know, most of like for me like storytelling comes from conversation, you know, and it's only when people are like, oh, you know what, Sean, what you're talking about is really cool. Actually, wait a minute, could you jump on this you know what I mean? Like that's how majority of opportunities come. It's word of mouth, you know. People have resonated with me as, I guess if you want to use the word branding myself, they've resonated with me and they've been like, oh, actually Sean might be the right person for this, you know?
That's a great answer, I'm not gonna lie. That's a sick answer. But to bring it back to more design stuff, innit? Because I do definitely want to delve into to your designs, because you know how you mentioned how when you gave Joel, that's his name, right? Is it
Joel,
Joel, sorry, of Not Just Another Store, when you came and wearing the hat, people are like, he's like, where did I get one of those? Remember I told you, since you gave me this hat, the amount of people that I've asked where I got this hat, oh my, bro. So anyway, what do you think it is about your designs that makes them so eye-catching? And you don't have to be modest here, by the way.
But I think honest. It's like, you know, again, you know, it's like I said, it's not just me, right? It's I work with someone else, my business partner. So it's really just the storytelling. I think I find majority of the best brands that do well for the most are the brands that really understand storytelling. And for us, it's like I'm an artist at heart. So the things I do, that's why you're seeing this sort of like, when we did this collection, like this was so genuine. Like we wanted it to look like this, down to the detailing. So, it's a hard one to ask because I'm just like, I love design. So I understand color, I understand pattern. And also for majority of the inspo I get are people around me. Yes, I can be outside and, traveling and stuff like that. But for me, I'm actually designing things I actually genuinely, I feel like people around me and I actually want to wear. So yeah, I think it's like, it's a hard one to ask, man. Like I don't really know like why I feel like people, for me, I think it's storytelling. I think we just know, and also the people we work with, for us, it's not just about, it's really just supporting people. So any person who's actually worked on Face or worked on Pearl Purple is either in my network or I know. And majority of times are people who are trying to maybe get a foot up in the industry. And it's really supporting them. So giving them a platform to come and create with us, showcase what you can do, whether that's videography, photography, animation, whatever it may be. But from a design perspective, I think it's just storytelling. I understand that process. I understand storytelling, the importance of it, for people to be able to resonate with your brand. Of course, it has to aesthetically pleasing, innit? It has to look good. So that's when that's when my design side comes in, understanding color, detailing, pattern, construction.
Is that something? Because obviously you didn't study fashion.
No,
you did. Would you say you done
industrial design?
Industrial design. That's it. And obviously that's not this.
So
You're talking about understanding colors and all of this, and X, Y, Z. Is that something that can really be taught, or was it something that you feel like was innate to you? Maybe it's something you picked up whilst in Zim, or the fact that you travel. Like, what do you think it is?
What isn't
in the sense that your kind of understanding of, obviously I'm not saying you have the golden gun on what I'm not saying that, but obviously you're this, bro, I came into the house, the vibe changed, like I'm like, wow, like this is beautiful, the aesthetics are beautiful. So you have an understanding of aesthetics. Do you feel like that's something that can be taught, or it's just something that people kind of have?
I don't know. I don't want to be wrong on this one. Personally, I think it's like, obviously you can't teach. Like, I think having attention to detail, I don't think you could teach it. You can learn the process, but like just knowing how to place things, how to, what looks nice. That's what an industrial designer is. Industrial designers, you are taught, you make things look nice.
Okay.
So if I'm like I've taken iPhone, putting round in the corners and make like the material, the poly, like the brush metal, like you're taught that, But I think there's the other extra part to it where it's just like, man, like how he placed that, it's just different. Or like the colors he's used are different.
So it's like that je ne sais quoi. You can be
That-
taught up to certain point, but that's
There's just some elements. There's literally some elements to it that like I just feel like you just have it. Either you have it, you don't. I might be wrong. People might disagree, but that's I don't know that. I don't know. I just think for a long time I used to be good at just making something look good, but for me it was just like, man, I want to just understand the process so well that like down to like the pattern in itself, like just how it, sits on a person, like even the foot, like, the construction of it, like the shape, whatever. Those stuff you can learn, but I just think there's sometimes an extra bit that's just like, like, man, he just gets it,
Bringing it back to the collection, Sean, so this was your first one.
First collection.
Done a collab. Is this the third one?
That's the second one.
The second one, yeah. Is the third one out yet?
No, it's not out yet.
Yeah, it's cool. I was confused.
Yeah.
I was thinking, are we going to your fourth one?
Yeah.
So this is the second one. And obviously, one thing that stood out to me about this collection was the colours. Loads of bright colours and like fruit imagery as well. Like it just seemed so cultural. I can't lie, it gave me Africa vibes. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. There were some references to that.
Yeah, there was a few. So I do feel like that was quite different to like the first collection. You get me? And it's interesting because with a lot of brands, like you will see like loads of like similarities between all their collections forever. Whereas with yours, it's almost as if like it was two completely separate things.
Yeah.
So what was like the thinking behind both? And considering you're like a concept store, do you kind of make things really different on purpose?
Yes, I think, you know, we every collection has its own story, is essentially how we map things out. But also the journey in from the first to the second collection, going into the third as well, is the time we're in. So the first one was almost like when we kind of actually hit pandemic. So that's why you're seeing like the distressed, you know, trying to figure out yourself. And then the second collection was almost like coming out of the pandemic, was like, you know, that's why we based the artwork on Reimagine the Garden of Eden, with the fruit.
So it's like a new start kind of.
A new start. Yeah. You know, that's why we want it to be bright. Hence why we reimagined the apple into the orange, and having the cherub, like the devil and the angel, the shoulders type thing, you know. That's why there were subtle elements where you had like, you know, the colorfulness, but then you had like the more toned down colors to it. So it's really the time we're in, and the conversations, like these have been ongoing conversations throughout the whole pandemic, worldwide, like how people have been dealing with it. A lot of people from the pandemic, they've started dope businesses. They've started businesses that have grown, scaled up already. So I think it's just the journey really that we wanted to focus on with every single collection. So yeah, that's how it really is. And yes, most all our collections are very much different. Even though like now going into the third collection, we are working on having more of an emblem. Okay. So
something that can kind of tie
exactly and resonate with people, so you know, like that's product from Face, right? Not to say we'll have uniform, but like it's mostly the emblem that you'll be able to see, which is already developed now. So yeah.
Hey Sean, I can't lie, this has made me so excited for the next collection, because I have no idea what to expect. Because I don't know what your perception of where we are in the world is right now. Do you get what I'm saying? I don't know what's resonating with you. You know what I'm saying?
But what's crazy about that, it's almost like it happened. It was almost like a blessing, you know. Sort of took a break. I think it got to when we finished the second collection. We did the runway and we did the pop-ups, and then we did so much happened that I was just like, to my business, I was so drained. I was so drained, man. I was just like, not that I ran out of ideas, but it was just like at that time as well, I was working on the footwear side, which, you know, I didn't expect it to get to the position it is now, but it was just something we started, and we were like doing a lot of back work behind the scenes to make sure it was all aligned. But with Face, got to a point where I was like, man, I need a break. And it was just like, man, could we go again and drop the third collection straight away in 2022? And I was just like, maybe let's take a break, you know. And sometimes you have to be honest with yourself, and then sometimes you need that. I think sometimes that's why I think with the whole season list, it's like, we want to be able to take our time. There's always going to be something happening every year, but you know, designing and that whole process is tough, man. It's heavy. So you know, I respect a lot of people who understand it. You know,
and I think it's really good that you have that mindset, in the sense that when you're honest with what you're capable of at that time, that kind of allows you to bring out the best version of what you're trying to bring out. Do you know what I'm saying? So you're not selling yourself short in any way. Because some people would hear it and be like, especially when you got a massive business, so there's really like a time scale you have to work by. There would be pressure to be like, okay, whatever it is, we have to get it out. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's good to kind of be in the position you're in, where you have an element of control over that, which I think is really good. I was going to say though, Sean, you've spoken about storytelling throughout the conversation, innit? And I love hearing that as well, because I work in marketing and stuff, so storytelling, I hear that every day, innit? But you've done a few pop-ups now. How many? 4?
Yeah. About fourth, yeah. 2, 3, 4. About 5.
About 5, yeah. So I've got 2 questions regarding that. So the first one is like, are the pop-up shops, do they play a part into you wanting more of a way to tell that story? Because you were obviously talking about the collections and you're telling me about the Garden of Eden and COVID and pandemic. And not to say it's hard to translate that message through just the clothing and through Instagram, but when you've got like almost like an installation in real life, you can do that. So that's my first question, if that's part of the reason. The second one is, and I'll ask you off camera, bruv, you've done 5 pop-ups now, so you know how to do a pop-up. There was a point you didn't know how to do pop-ups.
No, not a single
How
one.
did you learn how to do a pop-up and what goes into having a pop-up?
So the first question, yes, I think for us it's really much, I feel like in person is social media is not enough. I think being in person is often like a good way to, people understand the idea better. So when we did the first pop-up in Regent Street, that was a way to actually immerse people so they can walk in and actually be immersed and get to understand the narrative surrounding the whole collection itself, that second collection. And then regarding the pop-ups, being able to do a pop-up, that I just feel like we got into a point where that was the next phase in our journey as a brand. So that first one we did in Regent Street was like, it was so amazing because it was just like, we had done everything we needed to do off social media to bring it into actual like life in a physical store. And then I just believe as well, our process is like building community. I think in-person activations are very key. So that's why it's like, but make it make sense. Doing it with the right people. So doing it with like, for example, having done it like a runway with new wave and like style and sound, that made sense because from that, people were like, wow, like what you guys have done, it's a full that collection makes sense. Like it was good to get more eyes on it and get people to really see what we're doing. And then after that, when we did our own like in our own solo pop-up to get more people, we've connected with in the industry and stuff to come and see, and really just the traffic you get at Regent Street time to time to come and see, it was really super dope. And obviously doing like a party around that. And then again, our Mason, who are, I've been able to like, super supportive team.
Yeah, big up our Mason, man.
Our Mason is super dope. Like, if you meet them individually, what they're doing, their platform is like something I actually think a lot of people need to look at because they're really highlighting brands you don't really hear about as much,
big facts.
Which is important. So that's like a space that people need to tap into a bit more and actually, so what they're doing, I think is amazing.
So who runs it again is Matt.
So Matt and Felicia, they run it both
Felicia
together. I'm a big support of what they're doing, and I'm always thankful. So when they did that, they did a collaboration with Not Just Another Store, and we did that in I think it was Soho House, but White City.
Okay,
West London one.
Yeah, that's near me.
So that was super dope. Again, it's also like I had a conversation with someone recently about make it make sense, and also like the crowd. It's also like trial and error, understanding where your crowd is, because not every your collection is not going to resonate with everyone else. So where you're going to do your pop up, your collection might resonate with people in East, but then you do it in West. That's not going to make sense, right? So fortunately for us, the brand and that collection, the second collection, just seemed to draw different types of people. So when we did in White City Soho House, it did so well, which I didn't expect. So when I was speaking to Felicia and like Joelle and stuff, they were just like, wow, like this is done so well. And that made sense for then. That was like the last thing we did before the end of the year. When I was just like, man, I think we need a break. But again, it was just community, it was building community. It was for people just to understand who we are as individuals, and really just like a proud moment to just, walking and seeing people wear your stuff is like, it's just crazy sometimes.
Different feeling. It's
a different feeling because it's like, for a long time, a lot of times you just design things and you just like, it's just there. But like for you to actually do the pro process and have something physical, it's a different feeling, man. So yeah. One day, whenever that day comes, yes, we might have an actual like brick and mortar. We might have a physical store.
100%, bro. I see it.
So
trust me, I see
so
it, bro.
we'll see,
Like,
you know.
before obviously when I knew we were gonna record, I was just thinking about the sort of things I was gonna say. But honestly, Sean, it feels like you and your partner, your business partner, and obviously the brand is like you're laying the foundations now. And whether it's next year or the year after, like there's gonna be almost like a convergence. Like everything's gonna make sense. Like I can see you lot being huge, bro.
No, I appreciate it, bro.
Honestly, like
Because even crazy, because then we took like a few months break, and then we did the recent pop-up again with Joel at his store. And you know, sometimes it's like I've got this thing where it's like I wanted to just see how people would react to us just come in and do another pop-up, just a pop-up sell. And it was crazy just seeing how the support that still is there. But even though we were silent, again, that comes down to us individually. Like, you know, the people who I speak to is like, you know, people who actually resonate with me. I've had a conversation with me. They've either had a conversation with me or my business partner. So whenever we do something, they're going to come and support. You know, so even though, yes, I think these people seeing this were like, wow, like it's cool. Oh, you're doing a pop. Oh, I want to come through, you know? So it just gets to show you that sometimes it's like when you really focus on, forget the, you know, doing something that's going to pop. Like this collection we did second, it's grown into, as in like people have talked about it more and more, as in like, it wasn't like, I knew that it wasn't a collection that people were going to be like, yes, I'm going to instant sell out. No, I think we knew that it was going to take some time for people to really grasp into, oh, I like the detail on that. Oh, wow, that orange sweater is really dope. Oh, we worked with the all-female team in Amsterdam. Wow, that's amazing. Like cherub sweat, you know what I mean? So it took some time, but I think that's why I think sometimes it's patience, you know what I mean?
and I suppose when things have that level of depth, it's like it's gonna take time for people to understand it, and it's gonna mean different things to different people. So one person could get it. So naturally, when you first launch, some people bought it straight away, but then someone might sit on it and they look at it and it means something different.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know?
And that's why installations are important, you know?
Very important.
Because then you get to communicate the whole concept and idea.
Like almost like one goal. Almost.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
then like people then I'm like, okay, I'll buy it. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's when, you know, that's why I think, like you said, it goes back to conversation, man.
Installations, you can kind of look at them as like almost like a bullet train on that customer journey, innit?
Bro, if you do it right, that stuff is amazing, man. Like, it's great marketing. Yeah.
Sean, I was gonna say, obviously again, we've spoken about community a lot as well, and from everything you're saying, from everything I've seen, I can see that you're truly building one that's growing and whatnot. So this is another two-pronged question. So feel free to ask me what the second question is if you forget. Yeah. But like, what would you say are like the key components of building a fashion community and whatnot? Because I feel like a community is almost different to like a customer base. Do you get what I'm saying? Like fast fashion brands don't have a community; they have customers. You get what I'm saying? Well, that you can disagree with me. Do you know what I'm saying? My second question is, speaking of your community, remember a while back when you lost your Instagram and that?
Yeah.
I remember that actually upset me, bro. I was actually proper upset. Upset for me, bro. Honestly, fam. But I just wanted to talk about that a bit, like what happened and like how did you deal with it? Because that's tough, bro. Do you get what I'm saying?
So in a way, it was a blessing because it was like we had done everything, all the physical stuff, like in-person activations and stuff, up until then. So when we lost the Instagram, it was almost like it almost needed to take a back seat, because then from that we wouldn't have thought about having an emblem now. You know, rejigging the face image brand in itself. But we just looked at it as a positive. We just said, okay, maybe this is time we need to just refresh. That's why we took some time out to working on that. But the key thing there, why I think it's like, why still people resonate with it, is because, man, we tapped into the in-person activations. I think that's so key. I think if you're just relying on social media, it's not enough, man. After time, you need to realize, like, you know, when people get to meet you, get to know you as a person, get to understand the brand in person. All of those people we had met over that past 5 months, they came back, you know, when we started fresh again. So that's why I think it's like, I was frustrated naturally, but after like a couple of months, I was like, actually, we're good because we had already created that. So when we started seeing the same people come back again, I was like, oh, that's cool, man. That's fine.
And I suppose it reaffirmed what you were doing.
What we were doing, you know,
Yeah.
reaffirmed, like, even I remember, like, in a conversation when I was at the Soho House YC pop-up, and Joel was like to me, whatever you guys are doing, just keep doing
it. Yeah.
Don't change anything, you know, just that formula is working. Just keep doing that, whatever, continue that to every collection. And that's what we just kept doing. And that's what when we did that recent Cell pop-up, I was like, wow, like, you know, people are coming to support again. So even though those things had happened, yeah, I feel like we just did the right things for us, you know.
And the first question I asked was the key components that go into like community building. What would you say they are?
So I think transparency is key. I think in-person activations is also really key. I think people will resonate more with you from conversation, in-person conversation. I think so. I go back to social media is not enough. You know, you really need to have like a personal touch with the end user. You know, they need to get to know who you are and then you can delve deeper into the brand. I think now more so, you know, people's like attention span, reading.
Right.
So not a lot of people are going to go on your page and read your manifesto. Whereas in person, you can break that down in maybe like a few 3-4 sentences, and it can hit them. But like, oh, cool, wow, I fuck with what you're doing. You know what I mean? So I think for me, those are the two main things: transparency and then process. I think that's the third for me. Transparency and process, man, are so closely connected. Like I just think people love seeing the process of how this came together. You know, even the stuff we've posted more on social media to do with like maybe the making of like the sweaters, people interacted with that more because it's just nice to see that, you know, how the idea came about from sketch all the way to actually getting it manufactured to being an actual physical, you know. So for me, that's like the main three things. I think it's like process, transparency, and human interaction.
No, I love that. And I'm so happy you said that as well, because that's something we as a team have been thinking about, because again, God forbid if we lost our Instagram or our YouTube today, it's that. So we're trying to do events and whatnot. So if anyone's listening, any brands that want to put an event on, know where to find us. Hit us up. We need it.
Exactly.
But Sean, just to go on a slight tangent, obviously before we started talking, I was reading some articles on you and the brand and whatnot. And you spoke about wanting to take face concept stores into the more like luxury space. What does that entail?
So luxury is in like, so for a couple of years, this came from like a good few months conversation with a business partner. We're just trying to align ourselves. Where do we place ourselves in the market? You know, it was just looking at what sort of brands, like we've had a lot of different, like a mixed crowd resonate with our stuff. But I think it was just like aligning with like, where do we want to go? The type of like styles we want to tap into. And that essentially, of course, like luxury is the new fashion in terms of like, just like quality, etc. But for us is very much like, you know, we're not a streetwear brand. I think the type of styles we do, the type of image we give out, I like to think is luxury. So that's,
it definitely screams runway as well.
Runway, exactly. So that's where we're going towards. I think this third collection is very much going to be a start to very much focus on that. I think a lot of the things we've been doing, even from the first collection, you'll still see these sort of elements in the collections as we move on.
Yeah. So sorry, Sean, you was basically saying, obviously the next collection is gonna be like the first foray into that kind of step.
Yeah, so I think it's just like, like I was saying, I think it's, like I said, we don't deem ourselves as a streetwear brand or, we you know, our style, the look we go for, brand image, lines more with me, with more luxury. And yeah, like the type of like garments we really create, the time and effort we put into like the quality, the material, the process, you know, I think that's really the focus, you know.
I can see it. I can definitely see it, and I'm excited for it as well. Like I need to come. Speaking of runway and stuff, how come you lot didn't do like London Fashion Week this year or anything like that?
I think it's like, it's always like time. It's interesting. I've had a few people ask us the question. I think it's always the timing, man. Same with the when we started doing pop-ups, you know, it just made sense. I think we're just more aligned, and we understand that more now and where we are as a brand. Yeah, that's maybe something we need to look into more. That's actually an issue because we always get that question, but I don't get too caught up on that. Just because I think I don't know, you know.
I wasn't even asking saying you have to, because I was gonna say I feel like it's quite refreshing that you say the things you say about not having to be seasonal and whatnot, because I think that's a blessing that's come from almost like this new digital age that has kind of like, I don't know, almost democratized the fashion space in a way, people can kind of move at their own pace, which I think is great. Especially it ties in with your like sustainability, the sustainability side of your brand as well. So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily need to, but it would be sick.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's something we've thought about. I think maybe the third collection we might do actually. It'll be interesting. I've just had a friend of mine. She just did like a digital presentation, and I thought it was super dope. Maybe it might be a digital presentation, just you know more you know, showcasing like a film and stuff like that for the whole collection. But I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. It'll be interesting to see what we decide to do with regards to if we go into doing like a runway, because I think it'll be cool, man. Now thinking about it, I think it'll be cool to just, because even that second collection, we did a runway in Peckham Levels, right? So yeah.
And time will tell with that.
Time will tell with that, you know what I mean?
Oh my days, I lost my train of thought. Yes. So obviously, off camera as well, we were speaking about the like importance of, not necessarily the importance, but your brand that focuses on like collaboration and stuff. And part of collaboration is like brand partnerships and things like that. So at your last pop-up, it was in partnership with Red Bull, which is sick. Huge brand. Huge. Don't get bigger than that. So big up you lot on that, Sean. I just wanted to ask, like, how did it come about? And like how did the brands kind of align? Because it's an interesting one. Because with Red Bull, you obviously usually associate it with, in terms of what they do away from the drink, more like esports and stuff like that. Like, how did it align with what you were doing at that point?
So quick intro, just to so it makes sense, context. I think so. Pearl Purple is now a company I run with two of my good friends who I've never met in real life.
Crazy.
So I've been working with these guys for 3 years offline.
Pen pals.
Just literally online. Two amazingly talented dudes, like amazing dynamic, which is super dope at what we do. That's predominantly focused on footwear. So we basically started like a year ago. We're developing a collection. And there were so many things that happened, you know, turbulent things that happened in that process. People were interested, you know, people dropping up in and out, whatever. And then towards as January, February, March came, that space there was like, we were trying to figure out where we wanted to align ourselves. What can we do to go to the next level? We were going to drop digitally. Obviously, we were looking into physical side of things and you know, manufacturing, the costs that might come with it. And I just happened to meet one of the founders of the platform we collaborated with. It's called Fair.xyz. And we were like, look, let's just do a partnership. I didn't really know what it looked like, but I was like, I want to do an event. I was like, we should do an event in London, do it. And last minute, after we started planning it, and I was like, why don't we do it in a fashion week? It just makes sense, because then you get that crowd, but also we just wanted to bring the London creative scene and just like showcase that, because we just think the shoes are so dope in that way. The Red Bull thing, I have to give a shout out to my one of my friends called Baba. He was actually working at Red Bull, at that time, which was a couple months ago. And I literally just got in touch. We basically had like a few venues that we're looking for, but the price was just a bit crazy. And I got in touch with him, just being like, Red Bull, is this something Red Bull be interested in? So we put a deck together, and he did all the talking. Obviously the deck helped because it was something different for them. But gaming, esports, the digital world,
makes sense.
It all makes sense, right? And I think for them, it's almost like awareness, and like, you know, he sent me like a 3-part on like how understanding, make it make sense for us. It's like that deck was like, why does it make sense for us to partner with Red Bull? We were basically we were pitching to them to just show that like, this is what it's going to bring in terms of like not only the crowd, but it's a new market for you to tap into. That I think, you know, you guys want to like bring this type of crowd more, you know. So it made sense. They agreed. How it was so crazy how it just so all happened so fast. Genuinely, part of me was just like, I have this moments where sometimes I'll be in certain rooms, I'm like, I don't even do I deserve to be in this room? So
a bit of imposter syndrome
in time, which we all get, right?
100%.
But I think it was just crazy, just like, wow, like, you know, it happened. So they agreed to it so fast that I was just like, wow, I didn't expect him to, you know, but you know, Bubba did a good job. He just, you know, he was the main guy, like, you know, without him, it wouldn't have been Red Bull. So he was able to like, you know, pull things together with that Red Bull team to like help us out to be able to present with them. And yeah, it worked out, man. Like, I'm super grateful for that moment, because I think so much had happened before, hearing like, you know, when you hear no's and stuff like that. But for us, it was just like, something is going to happen. That's going to like, something has to click. And it just seemed like this event was the one, you know?
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Sean, honestly, because I think it just shows our listeners, our viewers, that it's important to ask, man. But also, this is kind of what we spoke about off camera as well. When you're asking the right way. Because it's not like you just sent one little email or said, you know what, Baba, I beg you just chat to these or rare. You made a pitch deck at the end of the day, so you came correct. So that's definitely a good lesson.
And it doesn't matter what level you're at, man. Like, even now, like, yes, I might be doing stuff with, like, we might be partnering with certain people, whether it's like, even with like, regardless of Joel being a friend, I still have to send him a deck. It ain't take the friendship. This is business, bro. So I think that's the thing, where whenever I want to do something, knowing you're a friend, I still have to come correct, because at the end of the day, it's like, you know, it's their business as well. If it makes sense, yes, they can make it happen. If it doesn't, it's not going to happen, you know? So it doesn't matter being friends, none of that. Yeah, none of that matters. Till today, I still, even if I know that person, I still have to put a deck together.
That comes back to your professionalism.
Professionalism is important, man. It's like sometimes you get too caught up in like, because you know someone, so you can just feel like you can just ask and they can make it happen. But no, you still have to try and be, you know, professional, you know.
What would you say was, obviously collaborating with such a high profile brand and whatever comes with its challenges and whatnot. What would you say was like the main thing you learned from that process?
I think it's communication. I think it's important. I think obviously we're a big team working together. There was about 6-7 of us. So it was just very much like divvying out the different tasks. You work on this, you work on that, you work on this, you work on that. But it was just like, it just your business acumen, like you know how to approach things different and how to communicate. Like being able to communicate your ideas is so important, bro. Just for someone to understand where you're coming from. And I think that's something I'm learning by being in, whether it's going to, you know, speak to Red Bull or whatever, or speaking to someone in, doesn't matter what level. Just being able to communicate your ideas is so important. And one thing I would say, you only get one opportunity to wow someone. So just make sure that's bangs, man. Like, you know, and that's what we did. It was just that one opportunity for them to say, like, cool, what is it you're doing? Can you show us? And, you know, we already prepared content to show them. So yeah, like, I think it's like, for me, it's like you always get the opportunity because unfortunately, you know, there's other people, some other people can just slide in and get the opportunity. So I just think we got the opportunity to present and we did what we needed to do and then they accepted it. So, but yeah, I think for me, it's just communication. It's like just making sure you communicate your ideas well.
The right way. I might actually call this episode that, you know, you only get one opportunity to wow someone.
Yeah.
Because I think that ties into a lot of the things we've been speaking about, just the fact that attention nowadays is more scarce. So you literally do get one, even when it comes back to Joel seeing your hat. He was wowed by that hat. You walked in wearing that hat and he was wowed. That was your one opportunity. Not like you was doing it on purpose, but you get it. So even when people...
And even that day, I remember literally saying, I was like to Aya, straight after the day after, please get them. I didn't know who he was.
Oh, serious?
I didn't know who he was. Aya knew Joel,
yeah.
But she's the one who connected me to him. But again, it just comes down to, I treat everything as like, wow, this is like so important. It doesn't matter what level it's at. Like, I was just like, wow, that was my opportunity to be like, yeah, you need to wow that person. So like, make sure we made sure that hat was packaged well, the packaging and everything was right. Because you get that one opportunity for someone to be like, oh, this is really dope. I actually love this. I'm going to pitch it to someone else. I'm going to word of mouth, right?
And look, now it's led to an organic friendship partnership where you've done pop-ups at their stores.
Yeah.
It's mad.
Same with Red Bull. It's like, the day after that, it was like having a conversation with one of the guys from there. It was just like, again, it was the conversation we'd had after that. He was just like, man, if you guys ever got anything you want to do, let us know. Just from conversation. And when you do it the right way, people actually like respect you. And then, you never know later on the line, they want to do more stuff with you.
No, facts. And I think this is so important to think like that, just in life, but in an industry like fashion where, not to say, because you can say anything's saturated, but there's a lot of things going on, do you know what I'm saying? Right. Brands can work with a lot of brands, do you know what I'm saying? So you do really have one opportunity. So whether you're a designer, you got your own brand or whatever, just have that in your mindset as well, man, because it will definitely make a difference. But yeah, Sean, we've been talking for a minute still. I can't know, we could go on for a lot longer, but I've got a couple more questions to ask regarding the stuff you do with the footwear and whatnot. I can see that, not say you're making the transition into the metaverse, because I'm not saying that, but like, why is that metaverse fashion, digital fashion, why is it so important if it is?
I think there's an entry point to it. So I think it's obviously things have grown from Web 2 to Web 3. So I think it's like, using the term like utility. So how, for us is exactly when we started, we were like, we didn't have the financial backing. We wanted to do, the end goal has been a physical. So we didn't have the financial backing. So us thinking, we're like, well, this is an entry point. You go into, you start your brand digitally, you acquire them enough funds to then go and do physical. So that's how we looked at it then. Obviously things have changed now. There's a lot of things that have changed now that, we've been now in certain positions now, but it was just like, for things like it just giving the buyer, person who's buying to you, the opportunity to be part of the process as well. So like, even the buyer can be an investor, for example, I think a lot of us now, like I was saying to me and a friend of mine, we were talking about this. She was like to me, she's in the metaverse space as well. She has her own really dope, like she's doing some really dope stuff. And she was like to me, she was just like, it's crazy because like you almost don't want any, like you don't want like VCs, you know what I mean? To be your investors type thing. Because it's like all they're doing is giving you money and then they want something in return, right? They're not the ones telling you, they're not giving you any ideas, they're not like giving you like any direction in terms of how you need to go with the brand. All they're looking for is like, give you that money, I want this back. Whereas the collector or the buyer, if that was your investor, there's more power in that because
100%.
They are actually telling you, they're giving you feedback. They're telling you, no, I don't fuck with that.
They're really telling you what they want. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's the power of like the method and digital world as well. And just being able to like connect, it's like you can start your own brand, bro, virtually. and literally be successful in that. Now you're seeing a lot of different spaces like music. People are making, you know, selling the music as NFTs and they're successful in it, you know. People that might not have been successful doing it off, you know, in physical, now they're doing it in a virtually and they're being successful. So I think it's just allowing people, if you have an idea, you can launch it digitally. So it's just anyone can do it and everyone can, you know. There isn't like, you know, any like too many like restrictions to it. And again, there's not really much, you're not dealing with like gatekeepers and shit. You can just go in, mate, start your thing.
And in fashion, there's a lot of those.
Exactly.
Right?
So that cuts out a lot of like middleman, you know, and just do it yourself.
Yeah, you know, facts. Sean, we definitely need to do a part 2, you know.
For sure, bro.
Bro, we need to. But I was gonna say, just a couple more questions left. What can we expect from Sean, from Face Concept Stores, from everything? What's coming up?
What's coming next? So next collection, obviously third collection is in the works. You know, I'm super excited for that. So we're developing that, which is super exciting. So I'm super excited to showcase that. The footwear, again, you know, we've started the process, which is super exciting. So I'm looking forward to, you know, next few months to presenting some really cool stuff with the team. And then individually, I'm actually working with some really cool clients right now. Super dope client. You know, I'm gonna keep that under the wraps. And just let people see it when it comes out.
That's how you gotta be though. You gotta keep it close to
keep
your
it under
chest.
the wraps. But it's super exciting, man. Like
Sick,
I'm honestly like grateful for meeting people like you, man. Just giving us like opportunity. I've not really done any like podcasts like that.
Seriously, I'm surprised this can't be your first one.
This is probably my second one. The last one I did would have been like a year ago, than fashion. But it's just nice to like being able to. I feel comfortable, you know, and glad you guys came down and just being able to just like shoot some dope content and just talk about like things that I'm often having conversations with friends about, you know, internally, and just talking about, you know, ideas and like stuff we want to be doing, etc. So it's now, and I appreciate you guys like giving me the platform to do that, and just like shouting out about, you know, it's really just a team, man. Like I don't, you know, it ain't just me. Like I'm like a fraction to what happens. And yeah, that's the people. I'm just grateful for the people and the team I have around me, like to make everything happen. Sometimes it just doesn't feel, it feels crazy just being in certain positions. And I'm like, wow, like, but it's taken a long time, man. You know, we've all had the no's, man, but I'm fortunate to have had people give me the opportunity to show that, yeah, I can do this.
I hope it always feels like that for you, Sean, because that's a good thing.
That's a good thing, bro.
Because obviously imposter syndrome comes with its, I'm not saying that's what you were alluding to, but if you're feeling crazy, because you did mention it before, like if you are feeling like an imposter, like, oh my God, it's like I'm not meant to be here. It's because you almost can't believe that you've made it somewhere.
Yeah, I think it's that sometimes. It's crazy because sometimes you're like, wow, it took a long time to get there, to even get where I am now, like doing stuff I'm doing. It's like, yes, in a way, like I was always focused. I always knew like I was always focused on the process. I was going to get somewhere, but like how quickly it's happened, it's something that's still unreal to me. Like I'm like, wow, I'm actually doing what I actually enjoy. I'm actually doing design and I love it, you know? So yeah, like it's just like, you know, in a way, like I know I'm deserving just because like I work hard. I don't really talk much as well. Like I'm just like a quiet dude majority of the time, bro. I'm just like keep it moving. You know what I mean?
No, big up you, Sean, man. Everything you're achieving, testament to your hard work, as you said. It's testament to the team as well. And I think also your character, man. Like, bro, people are gonna have seen from this conversation, you're genuine, cool brother, man. So obviously, us, man, wishing you all the best. We're gonna support you however we
100%.
can.
I love people, man.
Yeah, no, I actually
love having conversations.
I've had a great time on this, having a conversation with you, and obviously we're gonna speak again. But just one more question before we finish. You know, we ask this to all our guests. What would be like the one piece of advice you would give to like a up and coming designer or anyone who wants to get in the fashion industry, really?
Focus on the process, man. I think often we get too engrossed in like, I think when you pay too much attention, which is natural, we all do it. when you pay too much attention to maybe like social media or like what other people are doing, you get kind of like lost in in this idea of like validation and wanting to get somewhere really quick. But man, if you focus on the process, stuff will come together, man. Because sometimes it actually doesn't, like I was saying to you off camera, sometimes it doesn't matter who you know, bro. Sometimes you have to do the process, you know. So yeah.
Sean,
appreciate it, bro. Love, bro.
Thank you so much.
Thank
You lot
bro.
don't stop recording yet, because obviously I just want to quickly say to Sean, like, where can the audience find you?
So, I mean, I've got my own personal Instagram, Sean Chimbani. Find me on there. Face Concept Stores. It's literally Face Concept Stores. It's on Instagram. And then pelpurple.xyz is another one. You'll be able to find, you know, the work we work on, the projects we do. And also the team, really. But obviously we're very we don't really follow ourselves in these pages, so probably not gonna see who these that the team is. But you know, from maybe my personal Instagram, you'll see like who I work with and stuff like that. So
cool, yeah. Make sure you follow Sean, because as he said, shows the process, and it's important for everyone listening to see that.
Appreciate
but
it,
obviously, you know where to find us. WMTV_LD on Instagram, obviously. If you're on Spotify, find us on YouTube at WMTV LDN. We've got some big stuff coming soon as well, and we've got a website launching soon. Yeah, like, bro, we've been loading Sean, but I feel like
I'm excited.
We've got to take things to the next level, man. But yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. As I always say, keep it locked. If you ever want to take in future episodes on the go, you can also find us on Apple Music and Spotify. When you get there, please, if you don't mind, leave us a 5-star review and whatnot. It would definitely help. And yeah, as I always say, keep it locked.